keep those issues in mind. Everybody else kind of have that thing in the back of your mind. I'm pretty sure this wild and crazy ride that I'm going to tell you about that I'm on will kind of cover all of those things. But I think it's also important that the people that speak to you can talk to you and not at you. You know what I mean? You guys aren't bystanders in this democracy. You guys are extremely important. And I'm not walking into this room as if I'm just the expert. You have to listen to me. I would like to engage in dialogue. If you have any questions at any point, we don't have to wait until the end. And if you also have a comment that you would like me to respond to also. But I want to make sure that you all understand that we're going to get to this destination together. The goal here, before I teach you anything, is to keep you awake. Okay? If anybody falls asleep in here, I will go home and tell my wife I failed, okay? And I don't want to do that. Dion Dawson, founder and chief dreamer of Dion Chicago Dream. We're a nonprofit social enterprise that specializes in food insecurity, but a lot of fancy words is to pretty much say we're the opposite of the pantry model. So when you think about, food pantries, you think about two main things. You think about volunteerism, volunteering at a food pantry, and you think about donated food. How do we have a food drive to get the food there? How do we do that? So with Dion Chicago Dream, we actually have never recorded a single volunteer hour. Instead, we've created 55 wage-paying jobs from the community paying at least $20 an hour, if not more. And we've never taken a single piece of donated produce. So to date, we've provided more than 7 million pounds of fresh fruits and vegetables that we purchased, packed, and delivered. And the reason why that's important, and the reason why I say that, is because regardless of an organization or a company having social good in its mission, you also want to make sure that after about 30 seconds, they're not boring you to death. So if I stopped, you'll kind of know at least what makes us different. What's your name? Yeah. Graham? Graham. Gotcha. Nice to meet you. Graham, what's your favorite color? Purple. Listen, that's not common. You guys should be best friends if you're not already. There we go. Graham, what is something unique about Dion Chicago Dream?
It's the opposite of the food pantry model.
Boom, that's what I'm talking about. Everything that I tell you should be able to spit back to me because it's not complicated. We're the opposite of the pantry model, not saying the pantry model was bad, but just decided to innovate a little bit, right? You don't want to poo-poo on anybody's idea, but you want to say, hey, I think I can make this thing a little bit better. So I started in 2020. It wasn't a story of glitz and glamour and me finding my life's calling after reading the Bible and God speaking to me and saying, hey, feed my people. It wasn't that amazing. It was actually someone in your age bracket asking me in 2020, how are you going to celebrate Juneteenth in 2020? Now, I don't know if you guys know how it feels to lie, but I literally tried to lie my way out of it. I was like, oh, I want to do stuff, but I can't. And he looked at me and he said, no, what are you going to do? So I said, without thinking, I'm going to feed 100 families. Now, at this time, in 2020, of course, the pandemic, it started, so the world is shut down. I mean, everything is in chaos, but more importantly, I'm broke. So I don't know how I'm going to feed 100 families. But I said it. First thing about this thing is, a lot of times with your goals, you just got to say it. You got to say it out loud. Say it to your best friend who might not have a middle name. But it's important to make sure you say it. And so in saying that, I was tied to it. And so the first thing I had to do was figure out, how do I make some money to feed 100 families? What do you think I did? Somebody. Anybody. If you need to. Money. You know what? Wait. That was so funny. Oh, man. How did I make the money?
You needed to make money, so how did you?
Yes. That is why everybody was like, oh, my God. Talk to me.
You made the money by asking somebody to give you money to feed.
But how? Think about it. If you guys left tonight and you were tasked with raising $500 apiece, what would you do?
Knock on the door.
Okay. If your neighbors don't like you, what would you do? Okay, you like doors. Okay, he's the door guy. Somebody else. Hold on.
Family and friends.
Family and friends. What else?
GoFundMe.
Boom! Thank you. I did not want to get to 25 people. What's your name?
Will.
Will, you're my favorite right now. Thank you. You saved me. It was going to get dark. I did a GoFundMe. And I did not know if it was going to be successful. I didn't know anything about it, but I said, I'm just going to start a GoFundMe. And I'm from the start of the internet generation. So having to upload photos and describe stuff in paragraphs, that's my jam. I was a writer in the military. That's what I can do. So you know what I did? As I started the campaign, I flooded it with as much information, with videos, with photos, and we were off to the races. And when I tell you, I was insufferable, okay? All the doors, okay? Digitally and physically. If you put up a photo online, I was like a spam bot. Nice photo. Here's my link to my GoFundMe. I was unashamed. And what I learned there was you cannot be embarrassed when you're going for it. And so what I'm thankful about that specific part of this journey was like, it was something important enough for me to get out of my own way. And so when you guys and gals, when you think about where you are and where you're gonna go, when we talk about, your social responsibility, it does not have to be boring. It can connect back to things that bring you joy. Because if this wasn't something that I really, really appreciated, I probably would have gave up a long time ago. But it was just something about feeding people and having, gone through hunger and food insecurity as a kid before. It really kind of stuck with me. So I started the GoFundMe, and I'm off to the races. And in 24 hours, I raised $2,500. I'm hot like fire. But what I also learned, and something that you all can kind of store in the back of your minds for maybe this might apply. If it doesn't, let it fly. But with GoFundMe, I learned that when you get to about 70% of your goal, you get an account rep. And an account rep starts giving you advice on how to meet your goal. And so because they want you to be successful on their platform. So as I'm getting close to that goal, my goal went from, 500 to 1,000. And I kept moving it from 1,000 to 1,500, and then $2,500 later, boom, we're there. And on July 3rd in 2020, we fed 96 families. And in that moment, it was the happiest day of my life. Now, I've deployed in the military. I've worked different jobs. I've done crisis communications and journalism and photography, all of these things throughout my life. But in that moment, I was completely exhausted. I was, up bagging chicken leg quarters at 3 a.m, crazy. But at the end of that day, I had never felt like that. I felt like I was tired, but it was worth it. And so that day, someone asked me, hey, what are you going to do? And I looked at my wife. I said, I think I'm going to kind of go for this thing. I didn't know what it was. Did I think 6 years later I would be standing here in front of you all or have employees or or provide all of this food or anything? No. If anything, it's the opposite. I just really believe that anything is possible. And if you really believe that anything is possible, you'll prepare for anything. And so in a lot of you all's preparation, whether you play a sport or you're in a club or you're going for this specific college, you're probably just aiming just low enough to make it. And so you can't really say you believe in anything. There are countless amounts of speakers who are worse than me. But then there are some who are better than me. So I always ask myself, how do I want to show up? And with this and in this journey, I said, okay, I'm going to go for this. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to learn. I'm going to figure it out. So off to the races. We keep going, and we start Dion Chicago Dream. But starting a nonprofit takes what? Money. We're locked in. That's what I'm talking about. It takes money. So I started another GoFundMe. And in 7 days, I raised $2,500 more. And we were able to be incorporated August 10th of 2020 with a mission around initially just, food insecurity and hunger, nothing really, really specific. So as I'm learning all these things. I'm learning about different nonprofits. I'm doing a landscape analysis. And what I had realized when I started doing my studying was that from the time I was a little kid, me and my mom and my brothers going to a food pantry when I was 5 to when I was 30, when I started this, the pantry model hadn't shifted. So now all of the things that used to be trauma is now data that I can draw from. Because now I know a lot about the competition. And don't get offended. We know some people don't like competition. We're all winners for whoever's out there. But also when you think about this, understanding sometimes you're competing to survive. Because that's the unfortunate, byproduct of the nonprofit industrial complex inside of capitalism. There will be winners, there will be losers. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I'll have a breathing contest right now to win. That's how much I love what I do. So we start the nonprofit. And the first thing I asked myself is, okay, well, what are we gonna do? Of course, we have an issue area, but how are we gonna decide to fight it? You know what I mean? When we talk about programmatic design, what would be that thing? And so I remember vividly, it was a night before bed, and I remember saying, okay, I'm gonna go on Instagram for like 10 minutes. I remember, it was a lie, but I said it to my wife, so like that's her fault. And I scrolled one time and I saw a community fridge. And if you're not familiar, community fridge, pretty much the premise of it is a refrigerator outside, encouraging neighbors to share with neighbors, give a little, get a little. It really took off in the UK prior to the pandemic, and in the pandemic, it really exploded everywhere. But we had the only community fridge in North America that didn't require anybody to put anything in. Because what happened was, how can you open up a community fridge in an area that you know has no fresh food? Wouldn't anything be put in there, right? So, I didn't have the words for it in the beginning, but based upon that landscape analysis and all of the data that I had accumulated, I could then come to the conclusion that, okay, telling people to put stuff in that's fresh when there's no fresh food here doesn't make any sense. And so throughout this journey, I've been able to really get in front of the pack, because a lot of the things, for example, the things that you all already know. How many times have you been talked at about your age group and they're talking to you about something that is completely outdated? And you're just like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? They're talking about, Anthropic as if it's a clothing store or something like that. You're like, okay, you're out of your element. And so for me, I've been able to use all of these things to my advantage. And so I saw the community fridge, we started it, and it was off to the races. And we started that fridge, and every single day, I'm going shopping at a grocery store, asking people for donations, and then we would fill the fridge. The biggest thing that could have happened was about 3 days after I started, I had the craziest thought. What's your name? Justin. What's your favorite food?
Chicken parm.
That is a sophisticated athlete?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yep, I knew it. Carb load. Justin, after 3 days, what do you think happened to me that changed the course of my entire journey? Just give me a wild guess. I know it's random, but.
You thought about it a little more?
You know what's crazy? You're absolutely right. It's so funny, because you'd be surprised at how many people know that their approach or their model is outdated or wrong, and they never address it. After 3 days, I realized the community fridge wasn't scalable. And so you know what happens when you know something doesn't work? Even when you're doing it, your mind is elsewhere now. And so the second thing that I want to point out to you all is, don't be afraid to take a moment and examine what you're doing. You could say right now, hey, I want to do this in philanthropy. This is how I want to help people. You can also wake up tomorrow and be like, you know what? I'm not doing that anymore. That's fine. I realized in that moment, I said, this isn't scalable. Why? We have a fridge outside on land that we do not own. We're using electricity from a liquor store that we're not paying for. And every morning I have to manually and physically get up, make sure my son is okay. He's 3 years old. I have him in the back seat in a car seat. I wish he could hold the phone steady so he could record my TikToks, but he can't. And then I have to go load this fridge in Inglewood, no matter how cold or how hot or what is going on. But what I'm thankful about is that, you know what? Okay, cool. I know this is not working. So while I'm doing this, let me start thinking of how I innovate here. And what I landed on was, okay, if you all live where you live and there's a fridge in your neighborhood, just one fridge outside, most of the time you all won't be able to get anything from there. You're working, you're going to school, you know what I mean? Or the stuff runs out. And so the only thing I said was, okay, what's a couple different things I can incorporate maybe outside of philanthropy to bring in? And the two things that I kept thinking about was Amazon, because whether they're your big bad or you don't mind them as much, they've really innovated when you talk about last mile delivery. But then also HelloFresh and the idea of tailored meals and different things like that. And I said, if we could purchase the food, if we could own the vehicle, if we pay the person, we could do whatever we want. The moment I thought about that was the moment that my life changed. where we would go from an organization with $400 and trying to figure out how we're going to stock this fridge, which costs about $73 at Mariano's every single day, to pulling in more than $19 million in the last 5 years. To going from stocking a fridge by myself and having my tripod and hoping someone doesn't knock it over, to having 2 companies with staff sizes of 55 people and 8 people over here. And so what I want you all to understand is, when you really think anything is possible, then every single problem that you all are approaching or you will ever encounter, the only thing I want you all to understand is, okay, cool, what are my options? Because you always have more than 2. And so when we talk about, innovation and social enterprises and diversified revenue streams and different logic models or theory of changes, of course it all sounds crazy. All of those are words. But it always kind of, reduces down into, okay, you see a problem, you solve that problem, and how do you scale that solution in a way where you can still be as efficient and as effective? That's it. That's all. It's not complicated. Some of the most, profitable businesses in history didn't complicate it. It was the opposite. They had one part, one piece of something that they evolved. And so, the only thing I would hope that you all can kind of leave the school year with is just asking yourself, even before you get to the social enterprise part of it, is what's important to you? You've seen something on social media, whether it's AI generated or not, that pulls at your heartstrings. What is that thing? Because now you can learn what's important to you. Because giving is cool. Giving to an issue area that you care about is fun, because you can connect to it. Imagine you providing chicken parm for all athletes on the south side of Chicago. Chicken parm legend. Crazy, but man, some schools don't have that. You know what I mean? All of something so small and so niche could be something that means the most to people. And that's what I've learned in my journey. I said, you know what? As long as I can be myself, and stay true to this, every time I wake up, and from the time I wake up to the time I lay down at night, no one will go as hard as me. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to take the wins. I'm going to take the losses. I'm going to be responsible. I'm going to care for people. But I'm going to make sure that people know this is possible. And so whether you see me in person or you see me on LinkedIn, it's the same. Maybe a few less curse words, but still. You know what I mean? So here we are. We decide. I'm thinking about this idea. And I said, you know what? We got to go for it. And so what we do is 6 months after starting, we start Dream Deliveries. What Dream Deliveries is our program where we deliver that week's worth of brand new fruits and vegetables directly to doorsteps. What started on 2 blocks is now across 83% of Cook County. And in doing that, right now, it's not really gonna click at how crazy that is, because also I don't understand how crazy my story is. I'm just living it. It does not seem wild. But what I want you to understand is, it's so easy to focus on the negative right now. So easy. There's so many different things that you could focus on that's not going good, and how crazy the world is, and why every day you're trying to just stay positive. I think it's the opposite. I really just wake up every single day and focus on who's for me and what I need to accomplish. I just decided, okay, I'll just create the world that I want to operate in. Instead of hoping someone is nice to me, I say, I'm going to be nice to as many people as possible, and just roll the dice there. Because I'm not a bystander in my life. The moment I decided that I mattered and I can do it, it was a light switch. And I was able to do every single thing with it. So even when we talk about, our model and programmatic design, I didn't know that me wanting to give quality produce to recipients and making sure that they didn't volunteer was this grand innovation. We've scaled it, according to the White House, we've scaled it further than anybody in the country. I didn't know that. When they said it, I said, well, look at me. I said, okay. But that's the point. Sometimes you can just do good and share everything you are and what you've learned, and that can be enough until you find the words. It's not about acting like you're important. It's not about thinking you're better than anybody. I just feel good at not being a bad person. I can walk into a room. I can care. I don't have to be the loudest one there. I can be quiet sometimes. I do. I talk a lot, but also balancing it out. So never really forgetting that people aspect. Start Dream Deliveries on 2 blocks in Inglewood, 15 households. And prior to starting the deliveries, I started knocking on doors. started knocking on doors. And I knocked on every door in Inglewood. I was like, hey, we would love to, deliver free, fresh produce to you. What's your name? Luke, how do you think they responded?
I bet they'd be cool with it.
Cool. Luke is delusional. Everybody, I'm joking. They slammed doors all in my face. But it's okay. Because again, it just was something I wanted to do. But the funny thing is when we started delivering, those same people would say, wait, what you doing? What you doing on my block? I said, oh, we delivering produce. Well, why I want some? I said, yeah, you closed the door in my face. And I was like, but it's okay, I forgive you. And those same people started teaching me a lot of different things about programmatic design, about feedback loops, about qualitative measurements, all the different things that you need to understand when you're running a social enterprise or a nonprofit. But I didn't have the words then. I just knew that if we're going to deliver stuff that we're paying money for, we need to talk to these people. And so what I decided was, okay, we'll deliver a week's worth of fresh fruits and vegetables. But then every other week, we'll have somebody reach out to them and do a qualitative assessment around how they feel about it. Again, not knowing that this is outside of the norm. I did not come from philanthropy or a nonprofit. I had no idea what was going on. But because I was willing to learn, because I was willing to apply myself, because I wanted to be great. The thing about this is one of the only hopes that I have for you all is that any of you all, if you end up at a nonprofit or starting a social venture or enterprise, try to be great at it. We need more people who want to be great at doing good, because good is not enough anymore. We see everything that's going on in the world right now, to the point where the headlines, we don't even believe it because it's so crazy. The only thing that keeps me balanced is, okay, cool, what can I do to counterbalance that? And so even with this program, it really saved my life because I didn't know how good it was in the moment. I just said, you know what, we're going to do this. And every time someone, it's so beautiful. It's like a Lego set. It's like, okay, you work with what you have, but then when you get this cool piece that connects to 5 different pieces, you're going to put that on everything. That's what I'm going to do. And so the only thing we've done as a social enterprise is when we see different learnings, we move like a startup. Because when I started learning about different social enterprises or even for-profits, because I learned a lot of things from for-profits, every time I would see an interview from a lot of different founders, they say, man, if I could start over, I'd start over as a nonprofit. Because what happens is, in the beginning, they take on a lot of debt as a startup. And so traditionally, most social enterprises try to start off as a nonprofit and to figure out, okay, are they going to flip that to a for-profit or whatever? Even with as controversial as OpenAI did it, they were supposed to be a nonprofit then. Magic, they're not. I realized, okay, I can learn from that. And so we started Dion Chicago Dream, scaled it into an almost $7 million organization. But then 2 years ago, we started toying with this idea around how do we scale what we've learned. Because Dion Chicago Dream works because Dion is from Chicago. And I have that hometown story. And I'm a veteran. And I've struggled before. And rags to riches story. But what about Cleveland? Or Florida? Or Hawaii? How do we scale this thing? Do we go to every market with hard assets and try to start this thing over? So we did a landscape analysis. Again, wanted to learn what was going on. And what we found out was that for us, it took us 6 different tech platforms and products to do what we do. To do routes and delivery, to track inventory, to manage the touch points and the conversations with the people that we were serving. So we said, if we're one of the best in the country, and it's taken us 6 products that we're paying for, what is everybody else doing? And what we found out was a lot of people were doing the same thing if they were as efficient as we were with last mile delivery. And so we said, what if we created the tech solution for that? So again, started talking to lawyers, started asking questions like, okay, well, what could we do to figure out how we could scale this solution? And so we start the nonprofit owns and runs a for-profit. And a for-profit is what Cheryl talked about, Cosmic Crate. a tech platform that connects CRM, last mile delivery, and inventory. And what we're able to do with that is everything that Dion Chicago Dream can do when it comes to managing our inventory, which is 300,000 pounds per month right now, and the procurement of that, and the packaging of it, and the delivery of it. Taking all those products and creating that one. Why? Because we know that small and medium teams and businesses and pantries and warehouses are using 6 products just to try to do all of that. So now we have a way where we can earn revenue and scale something that's not dependent upon Dion being there at 8 o'clock in Oak Park. It's okay, that was a joke. Y'all are too serious right now. From there, we said, okay, let's do it. And so we started this. We used earned revenue from the nonprofit, so we didn't have to worry about taking on VC capital. And over the last 2 years, we spent $700,000 going to market and creating this product that is now active online and has actual paid users. So we talk about, what I've done and how I've done it with my team. It's been simple. It's just I'm so infatuated with just learning and applying and doing stuff. I don't have to get it right. I've actually gotten so much wrong my whole life. This is like the one, like I finally got that opportunity where like I knew I was special my whole life. And it took till I was 30 to get that chance. So every single day where everybody is trying to look for motivation to be great or try to figure out if they're gonna clean their room or wake up, I just wake up on it because I'm lucky. I get to help people. That's what you all are learning about different ways to help people. It's gonna be sophisticated. You're gonna learn a lot of different business models. You're gonna learn a lot about, different companies that have approached it and whether they were successful or not. But at the core of it, it's just about helping people. Because that's the imbalance right now. The imbalance is, okay, if so many people are doing great, how can we help some people who aren't doing so great do a little better? And how complicated or simple is that idea? And my journey is, I'm lucky enough to have 2 companies, one nonprofit, one for-profit, that we have a clear understanding of what each one is responsible for, with both committing to helping and being there for people, with the job creation, with wealth creation, with some type of tangible give back. Because any problem that you're trying to solve, if there's no acknowledgement of wages in your model, then you're just perpetuating what you're trying to solve. That's how we kind of push this thing forward. But that's it. I want some questions. Can I get some questions? Is that okay? You guys good? Everybody woke? Okay. Rick, I did good. He's proud of me. Doris, talk to me.
Are you going to go and try to do this in Cleveland and Hawaii, like you said?
We actually have Cosmic Crate in 3 states right now, so that's already growing organically. Physically, no. I think it wouldn't, number one, it wouldn't land right. When you're talking about launching new ventures, you need time, and time equals money. And right now, the market does not have the most money available. So it just wouldn't be smart. And also, there's so many, when you think about this product, the beautiful thing about Cosmic Crate is it's equipping these leaders, whether for-profit or nonprofit, just with the information they need. And I think that's the thing that everyone, should be better at. Not necessarily me being in their market, but them having the ability as that C-suite leader or that director to know in real time what's going on with their company. That's it.
You get Chicago and the other people get their own area.
Yeah, but whoa, don't tell everybody else in Chicago that it's mine. Don't get me killed. But yeah, something like that. But we're able to scale. The nonprofit, of course, can continue to scale in the Midwest and in this region. And then Cosmic Crate is already going wherever it needs to go. Because right now, when you look at the food system, the overarching problem we're solving is the food system is disconnected and dark. If I asked you all to name all of the players in the food system, everyone would have different answers. And so what we're really trying to do is get everyone to have the same metrics of success. Some people care about the quality of the food people eat. Some people care if people eat at all. Some people care about how soon it gets there. So what we're trying to do is level that playing field, and we feel like Cosmic Crate can be that thing that anchors all of that. That's what we're trying to ultimately position. Somebody over here. What's your name?
My name's Luke.
Nice.
Second Luke.
Okay. Thank you, because I thought I was losing my mind, Luke. Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
2 purples, 2 Lukes. I'm good. Talk to me.
How do you regulate trying to put the nonprofit first and then putting regulate making them both successful?
I think if my vice president heard you use the word regulate, she'd smack me. So, but no, it's actually understanding that you're not doing it by yourself. So, we're not a monolith. So for me, it's making sure I have a team that knows exactly, what they have and what they're going to hold. And so I have a vice president, Daniel Parker, who's a monster. You know what I mean? And even as we were building this, we knew that once with the startup, it was going to be a lot of sales calls and a lot of, hands-on things that needs to be done. So even in this moment in our strategy is understanding, okay, hey, Danielle, 70% of DCD is you right now. And 70% of Cosmic Crate is me. You know what I mean? And understanding what that balance is. So still being there, but when you have people on your team that you trust, you believe in, and that can do it, it's not that difficult. The big thing is communication. You know what I mean? And understanding and trying to communicate in real time with your team what is the priority and how you want to meet that priority. And so, when you start something, they say entrepreneurs are crazy. I am definitely an acquired taste because my brain does not, shut off. But also making sure that the team understands that our strategy is not shifting day by day. We know what our expectations are. We know what our go-to-market route is. We know how many sales calls we need to do on this side. But also on the nonprofit side, how many grant applications need to go out? You know what I mean? How many did we do in Q1? How many did, what was that feedback? How are we bettering our writing? All of these other things. So it's really knowing, the great thing about it is knowing what each one is and what their value add is, what that main product or program is, so that then we can just always stay anchored in that. And so it's not hard now, but I asked a lot of uncomfortable questions with my team as we were building this, because I didn't know a lot about tech. And so with my CTO, some of the early questions before we really got into product, I was honest with him. And I said, I don't know how I fit. I had never done tech before. So if, of course there's, non-technical founders, but I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I said, hey, I don't think you have the answer for me, but I just want to tell you that I'm really searching for what role I play. And early on in startups, the founder, a lot of times has to be great at sales. So I'm on a lot of sales calls, virtual calls and in person. And that really has priority right now because we have a well-oiled machine with the nonprofit of understanding, okay, is food going out? You know what I mean? Is the team showing up? Are they okay? Are we checking back with who we're serving to make sure they're okay? Is there anything they need from me? Because then it's easier to balance. But early on, there was no balance. Sometimes you won't have balance, and that's okay. I don't want to preach a toxic, habit or lifestyle, but sometimes you'll just look up and you'll be leaning too much into work. And when you notice it, you just kind of lean out a little bit. Make sure you're okay. I take my breaks daily instead of a vacation. If you put me on vacation, I'll lose my mind. But I'll be able to drive, 30 minutes in between meetings with the music off, just thinking. You know what I mean? I might record a voice memo or something like that. You know what I mean? Something that I know kind of decompresses me in the moment. But just in terms of regulating or balancing it out, it's always a struggle because you're always changing. You know what I mean? Your business could change with one good call or one bad call. So I think making sure that you're always checking in with yourself to make sure you're okay, and then making sure you and your team understand who's going to own what. And once you know that, then you'll be able to have that conversation and understanding. Yeah. Gotcha. Anybody else? What's your name?
Joe.
Thank God it's not Luke. Oh, my Lord. Those are going to be a prereq for this program. It's like, is your name Luke? Talk to me.
What experience do you think influenced you the most to start this?
So I'm going to be honest with you, right? One thing that I struggle with as a black man from Inglewood is that when I was not a success, it was because of Inglewood. And then what I realized is, as I started, getting notoriety, and we started really getting the early wins, I was a success then because of the military. So I said, that's interesting, that framing. And so I'll tell you that, number one, being from Inglewood is one of the greatest inspirations I've ever had. I learned how to be an empathetic and sympathetic human. And I learned how to look at other people's problems beside my own. And then, of course, in so many different relationships and so many different jobs. You learn so much. I could tell you about how I learned I did crisis communications in the military and speech writing, and how when I started the organization, I did all of the media pitching and all of the press releases for my cell phone. That helped me. Or when I worked overnight at Amazon, and how that reminded me of deployment and my ability to shut my mind off when it's time to do hard work. And so, I mean, I think it's every chapter, and I almost feel like I was literally getting trained as I got to this point, because at so many different moments I've stopped. I said, man, that's crazy how this connects to this thing. So I think it's all of it. I mean, I don't think it's one specific thing or person that influenced. You have a lot of mentors, and you have a lot of people that you learn from, and I'm just always open to it. But I do know that at every step, I've been able to turn around and apply like something from that specific job or stop right back to what I'm doing. It's the best.
What do you think is the most important attribute that you try to embody, like as someone in your position?
I just want to make sure I treat people well. So, they say you remember the best and the worst of something. And I never want to be that horror story for someone. And so I always, ask myself, because, if there's any other, extroverts in here, you're going to always battle and struggle with taking up too much space. And so what I always try to ask myself is, okay, when is enough when I'm in a room? Will I allow myself to sit back and be in the experience and not have to be the spectacle? And so I try to always make sure that I can appreciate everyone else's experience in the room, in whatever room I'm in. And so if I can go in that room, if you're in high school or college or at the White House or anything, I pride myself on everyone being treated with the same respect. If I came here and I punted this and didn't care and talked down to you all, then that's something that I wouldn't want my mom to find out about. So, yeah. Somebody else.
So what were those 6 products that you saw that you could replace with Cosmic?
Say that one more time.
Those 6 tech products that you saw that you could combine them together.
Yeah, so, for example, we were using a routing software called WorkWave Route Runner, which is wholly expensive, like crazy expensive, and completely inefficient. And so, and I want to stay there for a minute, because we actually found out something pretty cool with that. So if we had, a few more products, because when you're talking about inventory, there's like 2 or 3 different products to like manage your inventory with spreadsheets or whatever. But then also when you're talking about talking to and reaching out to your recipients, what CRM you're going to do. There's a lot of CRMs out there. Salesforce is like buying a school bus when you need a scooter. It's crazy. And then also last mile delivery. The funny thing about what we created with Cosmic Crate and why I really love it is that when we were creating it, we had our team here that was local, and we had an international developer team. And as we were building it, something crazy happened. And it really led to us having a differentiator that really sets us apart when we talk about our delivery. When we were building our delivery part of Cosmic Crate, well, we realized that most of these tech products are built abroad. They're not built here. And so when you talk about routing and trying to create a delivery route, whatever software was out there was still not as efficient as it could be. And nobody really, of course, routing software and delivery is extremely difficult. A lot of different paradigms out there. But what we found out was that our routing is what's the word? Oh my God, drawing a blank. Our routing is optimized by zip code. And the reason why that's unique is because outside the US, zip codes don't exist. And so as we were building, we kept wondering why every time we were demoing and going through the product, it kept glitching. And it was because the developer team never knew what a zip code was, and they didn't tell us. And when we found that out, it allowed us to understand, like, okay, not only can we be efficient, but we can say that we built this product and it's as close to what we need in real time in the United States as possible. So that's just one of the things, but it was a lot more products, though. Somebody else? I'm gonna do 2. I'm gonna just do it real fast. Is that okay? I know, you mad at me.
What's the biggest piece of advice for like kids our age on like motivation, like every day to do the work like that?
I think for you all, how do I say this? I don't want you to underestimate how important you are. So if I'm being, transparent with you all, I had a pretty rough day. And seeing you all actually engage with each other, when I mentioned that actually meant a lot to me. So when we talk about, motivating or inspiring you all, I think it's the opposite. I think you guys are inspirational. I just think you all act like you aren't. I don't think you lean into your power enough. I think when you want to be a kid, you act like a kid. And when you want more responsibility, you act like you're an adult. But when we talk about inspiration, we can inspire by anything. You know what I mean? And so I think when it comes to what you want to do, just focus on doing what you like to do. Like what makes you happy? And if that makes you happy, then how can you find other people that it also makes happy? And what does it look like from a social enterprise or social entrepreneurship standpoint where you can turn that into a business? Sometimes you can start a business from either solving your biggest problem or just trying to continue to have as much fun as possible. So that's what I would say. One more. Anybody else? Talk to me.
Your business, your social enterprise
Yes.
has done a really great job of scaling.
Yes.
And scaling smartly.
Yes.
So my question is, did you have sort of a fixed philosophy when you were going into this where you were let's make sure we grow in a smart way and let's not just expand to Cleveland.
Yes.
Let's actually build the tech stuff. Where does that come from other than just solving the next immediate problem?
I think it's the opposite. I think understanding, like I said, remember, if I think everything is possible and everything is a possibility, then having that strategy of why you do things. You know what I mean? I think the biggest thing is that if you ask me about every single decision I've made the last 6 years, I can tell you why I made it, whether it's right or wrong. And so when you talk about that, instead of our team thinking we're small, I never talk like that. You know what I mean? Your team is your team, whether you're 50 people or 5. And so not shaping it around the size of your team and scale. Scale is something like love. It means something to different people. You know what I mean? Some people might think a scale is $1 billion entity. Some might think it's 100 million or 5 million. And so that's why I want to make sure that, there's intentionality around what you're doing and how you're doing it. I just understood that, okay, if we do this thing and we increase the numbers here, why are we doing it? Well, we have a wait list with 5,000 households. So we understand that we can serve more people and we know those people. So just as an example, making sure that you're really dialed in on that. But that's it. Look, I appreciate it, man. Look, thank you all so much. I appreciate it.